almost kidnapped with my friends, and one of them was almost okay about it. By you/Jinanis. This story happened when I was 15 and totally reckless. I was with my best friend Alice and her neighbor Emily. We decided to try to enter clubs with fake IDs after discreetly going out of the house by the window. After getting rejected by the security guys at the clubs because, obviously, we were not looking like 18-plus girls, we were wandering in the streets not knowing what to do. It was around 1 a.m., the subway was closed, and we didn't have enough money to get a cab. Plus, we really wanted to party, and Alice wanted to find a new guy because she was heartbroken from her past boyfriend. The last club we tried to enter into was in one of the areas that had a famous bad reputation in the city. Then suddenly, a car stops next to us and the door opens and there's 3 guys inside. 2 of them turns their head and tells us, "Hey pretty girls, come with us. We have everything you need to get some pleasure. We have some drinks, we can smoke. Come." The one at the back looked really muscular and was really insistent. Alice then said, "Let's go, girls. It could be super fun." Then she whispered, "Please, I need some fun. I need a guy to turn the page." She grabbed Emily's arm and went into the car, laughing. And at this point, I was like, what the hell am I doing? I would rather die with my friends than die alone in the streets. And so, we all entered. In the car, they're trying to flirt with us, but I am petrified. We say that we are 17 and they tell us that it's the perfect age to party with them. And after 15 minutes of them driving, I don't know where around the city, they say that they want to get some drinks and that they want to find a cool place. Alice is super happy, and Emily and I are relieved that they're gonna drop us in a public place, like a bar or a club. But then they park the car in a car park in the middle of nowhere. We get out of the car and the guys take some bottles from the trunk, mix a lot of stuff inside the glasses, and then give them to us. The one who was driving stays in the car, hands on the wheel and not saying anything. The 2 other guys start to tell us really inappropriate things, that they're gonna take us into a hotel and that we all look like porn stars. They were around 35 and we were all 15. They insist on saying how they would be the best hit of our lives and how they would be in beds and etc. Emily whispers to me that we shouldn't drink, but act as if we were drinking because there might be something inside. Alice starts flirting back and tell me that it's kind of dangerous but she likes it. And at this point, they tell that they're never gonna let us go unless we stay with them the whole night. I feel trapped, and they ask me to drink insistently. I finally do it and I start to feel dizzy really fast and everything is blurry around me. I think in a very incoherent way, and my stomach hurts. The guys are looking at me as if I were prey and they were hunting. And after 10 or 15 minutes feeling like this, I tell Alice that we should go, and she doesn't look worried at all. I then think that I should sit inside the car, waiting for my fate to do its job. I open the front door, and there's still the guy who drove inside. He is listening to the radio and doesn't even look at me when I enter. I ask him, "Why aren't you with your friends?" He turns at me, upset, and says, "Hey, I don't know who you are, and I don't want to know. You told us you were 17, but you look like my younger sister, and she just entered high school. I don't know why my stupid friends are stupidly flirting with you, but I am just waiting for them to stop and drop the 3 of you in a public place. Once it'll be done, I hope I'll never ever see you again in my entire life." I was shocked, and relieved. We stayed there, both of us, just listening to the radio and hearing the laughs of Alice to the bad sexual jokes of the muscular guy. And I was so dizzy that I was melting on my seat. After maybe 30 minutes, the driving guy said that he wanted to go somewhere. Everyone came into the car, and we sat in there and went for a 10-minute ride, while the two other guys were saying what they would do to us once we get to the hotel. Then, the driving guy told them to shut up, and that he was dropping us on this big place with lots of people. We gave the two guys some fake names for Facebook, some fake phone numbers, and we finally got out of the car. The muscular guy who was at the back tried to grab Emily's arm, but she managed to run outside. They left, and the driving guy looked at me just before leaving and nodded at me. I was still super dizzy and eventually threw everything up, and Emily didn't believe what just happened, and Alice was still laughing, saying that it was insane. It was like 3:30 or 4 a.m. and we finally found a real party after. But to these two guys that wanted to do I don't know what in a hotel, let's not meet again. Or like the driving guy said, I hope I'll never ever gonna see you again in my entire life. Creepy Dude on a Bike, a You Are the Host pod. For context, I'm a 26-year-old male and have a larger build. Not fat, but also not muscular, just have a bigger look to me. I have lived an unusual life, and I have been through many iffy situations with people, so I am not frightened easy by odd or wacky people. I also can defend myself pretty well in a fight. I live in a city with pretty bad crime and work on a sketchy side of town. While it's not the most crime-filled area, it is still sketchy, and you get shady people once in a while. I'm also a fan of dark life, so I love walking at night and don't really get scared. I work a second shift job, and it's my duty as one of the supervisors to lock the gates after the sun goes down and all of the day shift people are gone. And our work is also enclosed with a fence that has barbed wire on top. Just a few days ago, I was walking to close the gate. I was coming from the far side of the parking lot after throwing something away in the dumpster. But as I was walking to the gate, I could see a strange man on a bike. It's dark and cold out this time of the year at 8 p.m., so I found it odd to see a man that was at least 30 to 40 years old on a bike. But I carried on, as it could just be a man going to work or leaving work who doesn't have a car. But as I continue to walk, I see that he is now doing circles in the road at the end of the little driveway that leads to the fence. So now, my guard is up, as this is very strange to me. As I reach the fence, he has now set down the bike and is looking at me and walking toward me. He's like shaking, like I have seen many people on drugs do before. I am still not super worried, as, like I said, I have dealt with many shady people before. I close one side of the gate quick and rush to the other, swinging it closed. The gate is locked by a chain and a padlock, so I grab both sides of the chain. But before I can get the padlock in though, the man sticks his hand through the fence and grabs me by my shirt. At this point I yell, "Get the fuck off me before I beat your ass!" As it was, I was holding the fence closed with the chains while he grabbed me and yelled, "I'll fucking kill you!" The only thing going through my mind was, how was I going to get the upper hand on this dude, and if I should fight him or wrap the damn chain around his neck? Well, I was fortunate, and a police officer just turned the block as this was going down, and he flipped his lights on and quickly took the man down and cuffed him. While the man was in his car, he questioned me and got a statement, and then I was on my way. So, to the druggie who wanted to kill me, let's not meet again. The Pimp in the Punch Buggy by u/the440dude. Our story begins in mid-May 2014. I was 18 years old and at that time was looking for love in all the wrong places. See, I was particularly lonely due to my girlfriend leaving me a few weeks prior. These events brought me to the oh-so-wonderful Craigslist in search of companionship. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would anyone look for love on Craigslist? And I tell you, I was young, dumb, and looking for a good time. I hadn't started listening to Let's Not Meet narrations yet at that time, so I wasn't too sketched by it. I browsed through the personal ads for a while, until I stumbled upon one that looked interesting. After a few emails and text messages, I agreed to go meet this woman at the Red Roof Inn the following morning. Now, this woman never told me that she was a prostitute, nor did she say anything about money. Again, stupid I know, but just to be clear, she never gave me a price nor did I tell her that I had money for her. The next morning, I got up and set off to my GED class per usual, but took an extra long detour to the Red Roof Inn. It was a very warm and rainy day as I recall, so by the time that I had arrived at the inn, I was all soaked with sweat and rain. I made my way to her room and gently knocked on the door. When the door opened, I was greeted by a thin woman in a sports bra and a short skirt. I'd say she was either in her 30s and living a hard life, or in her 50s. Her attire should have screamed red flag, but again, I was young, dumb, and looking for a good time. She invited me in and asked if I could shower off really quick. The combination of rain and sweat sucks, and I started getting undressed to hop in the shower when she walks in and starts taking her top off. "No, that's okay, I won't be long," I told her. Looking back now, that decision might have saved my life. She went back to the bed and lied down. I washed myself up, preparing to get down and dirty, and I then stepped out of the shower and wrapped a towel around my waist. I walked out of the bathroom and looked at her and asked if she was ready. She sprawled out of the bed and said to me, "Donations are due up front." The words echoed in my head as I stared at the television. At this point, every single red flag that should have gone off before did all at once, as I now realized the situation that I was in. I stared at the television as I tried to figure out how to tell this woman that I don't have any money. I turned to her and simply said, as nervous as can be, Actually, I'm broke." I knew I was fucked now. She got up and started screaming at me, yelling how she was straight up with me. She got up and threw my clothes and bag at me, and as I got dressed and I profusely apologized for wasting her time, then she showed me the door and I began walking back to the room. Here's where the shit hit the fan. Before I was out of the parking lot, a guy in a green punch bag parked right next to the bagel shop in the parking lot called me over to him. I tried ignoring him and walked past at first, until he shouted to get my attention. So I walked up to the driver's side of this guy's car and he started talking to me. Now, this guy looked sketchy as hell, and I just figured that he wasn't the woman's pimp. So he started talking to me with his left arm up on his door. As I looked in the car at his other hand, I saw that he was holding a pistol. At this point, I was almost certain that I was going to die. He said to me, "So, why would you come here knowing you don't have any money?" I tried to explain that I didn't know she was a hooker, but he only seemed to get more agitated. This guy then pulled his right arm out and stuck his gun a couple inches from my face. "I have messages between you and her saying that you had money for her," he said to me. Now, like I said earlier, I never told this woman that I had any money. I nervously told him to check. So this guy pulled out his phone, gun still in my face, and after a minute or two, he lowered his gun and said to me, "You're lucky you came to one of my girls. Other girls would have stabbed you with a broken crack pipe. I see you're pretty young, so I'll let you off with a warning this time." He then motioned me to be on my way. I slowly walked away from his car back to the road, but you bet your ass that I kept looking over my shoulder to make sure that I wasn't about to be shot from behind. Obviously, I never met up with anybody from Craigslist again. Alright, so I'm a server at a local restaurant in Texas. Today I had a table that struck me as really odd. It was a man who appeared to be in his early 30s and a girl who looked around 8 or 9. So I understand that different families have different dynamics, but almost everyone, including married couples, wants separate dishes when sharing a salad. However, this grown man and a child ate out of the same really small bowl. They were huddled close together, which I found strange. The girl wouldn't really look at me, and the man did all of the talking. Not particularly out of the ordinary, but she was huddled down and hiding her face. Kids can be shy, but most of them at least sit up straight. I mentioned it to the bartender that I found the man creepy, and he basically told me to write it off or ignore it. And so I did. I pretty much ignored the bad feeling in my gut. You know that feeling that everyone says to listen to? After the two of them left, I walked over to their table to look at the receipt and see how much they tipped me. However, my attention was immediately caught by the writing at the bottom. Along the bottom left portion of the receipt was written, "I think you are a very pretty miss." It had a smiley face next to it. Then along the bottom it said, "Not my dad." All of the writing appeared to be in a different handwriting than whoever wrote the tip. I found this really weird, and I showed it to the management and they said to ignore it. My boss said the girl may have written the note that I was pretty, and then added on the last part to specify that her dad didn't think that. I have no idea, and it's really not my business, but this entire interaction and the receipt gave me such a bad feeling, and I'm still kinda creeped out. I'm not sure if I should report it or even be concerned, but I figured that I would share. Creepy Lyft Driver by u/thebartender89. I live in a city with a public transportation system. They have been extremely short-staffed, and more often than not, you have to call to make sure your bus is even coming. On weekdays, during business hours, the public transit operator will order a lift for you to get to work if your bus isn't showing up or if they're short of a driver. Tuesday, I'm at a bus stop after checking multiple times if my bus is coming, only to find out that it wasn't. They ordered me a lift, and this nice older gentleman was my driver. We had a casual conversation and he started to ask personal questions. I'm a bartender and I'm super friendly already, so I didn't think his questions were ill-intentioned. I told him that I'm not married and that I'm pretty much a loner. I basically go to work and go home and spend time with the family. He then says, I'd marry you in a heartbeat. Again, I'm just thinking he is being funny or nice, and I asked him to drop me at the downtown grocery so I could pick up some things that I needed for work. When we stopped, he said he was joking and that he's married and he has a son my age. He asked if I was interested in maybe meeting him, and since I have a terrible track record, I figured that it wouldn't hurt meeting someone out of my circle and comfort zone, so I gave the man my number, and then we parted ways. The next morning, he texted me and asked if I needed a ride to work. I told him that he didn't have to do that, and that I was sure my bus was running. He said it would be his pleasure, and he would pick me up at my house at 3 p.m. Then about an hour later, he asked if I wanted to have lunch with him before work. I told him that I was busy and that I couldn't do that. He said okay, and see you at 3. He shows up at 3 and then lets me know that he's outside. While I'm finishing getting my things together, I open the door and he's starting to walk up my stairs to my house. I told him that I was ready and we could head downtown. When I get in the back seat, he turns around and says he has a confession. He told me from the time that I took off my mask, his heart danced like a butterfly. He said that he hasn't been able to stop thinking about me since the day before, and that he'd love to spend time with me, and that he'd pay me for my time if I spent a day with him. That's when I started to feel super uncomfortable. The whole ride was making me cringe, but I know when you're in that situation, like that with a predator, playing nice is safer than freaking out. He continued on the entire ride about how he loved me at first sight and wanted to make me his Lebanese queen. And as we got closer to downtown, I started to feel relief. He dropped me off at my hotel and said, see you tomorrow. That evening at work, I checked my phone after a buzzed happy hour, and he texted me a couple times. He sent a picture of the hotel and said that he'd wait for me to get off to give me a ride home. I told him that I already had a ride home, but thank you anyways. Thursday morning, I'm out running errands with my mom and sister. He texts me and asks how early he can pick me up because he can't stop thinking about me. I ask him to please stop and that I was with family. He continues to text me all day and evening, begging to see me, telling me his heart is aching to see his Lebanese queen, and I just kept saying please stop. Friday morning, the shit hit the fan. He tells me he loves me no matter what, and he said that I told my wife about you, and that I am in love with you, and that I wanted a divorce. I told him to please don't do that, and that it wasn't right to treat his wife that way. He said it wasn't my fault, that they were drifting apart anyways. He then said that he was picking me up for dinner at 5:30, and he's not taking no for an answer. I ignored the messages during the day and just went about my off day. But around 5:25, my video doorbell rings and he's standing on my porch for at least 15 minutes. I told him that I wasn't home and that he should leave. He continues to text me and begs to come pick me up from my parents. I eventually called the non-emergency police station, but he had already left by the time that I got through. I filed a general report, but technically, they can't do anything unless he's standing on my porch threatening me. They advised me to report through Lyft, so I did, and I haven't heard anything since then. But that shit was creepy as fuck. Hello everyone, it's your creepy sister here. Thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate each and every one of you. But I would also like to thank my amazing patrons, my top tippers, and my dearest channel members. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it with all of my heart. If you want to support the channel further, you could also choose to become a patron, a tipper, or a channel member. But remember, it's appreciated, but never a requirement. I would also like to announce that we have merch now. The link is in the description of the video, along with all my other social media links, like my Discord server, Twitter, Instagram, and others. You can connect with me and send your stories there. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and comments are highly appreciated. And remember, your fear feeds me.